Farmers, trust is everything. At Genesis Fertilizers, we're not just proposing to build a facility, we're building a future designed for you. With real progress already underway, we're closer to providing Western Canadian farmers with a reliable, locally produced fertilizer supply. Now is the time to take control of your farm's future. Learn more at genesisfertilizers.com/credibility.
Let's talk about what's going on in these beef markets. We're joined right now by Ann Wasko, the Gateway Livestock Exchange. Ann, how are we doing today?
I'm great, Sean. How are you doing?
Doing very well. It's really warmed up here heading into the last weekend before Christmas. It's nice. I like it when we're above freezing in December.
Good, yeah.
Hey, all you Real Ag listeners, save big on your canola seed for next season. How big? Up to $40 per bag. Save on the highest yielding DeKalb canola hybrid, DK401TL. Visit your local seed retailer or DeKalbRewards.ca to find out more. And as we wrap up 2024, give us a bit of an update on what's going on in the cash market.
Okay. Well, in the U.S. this week, it was a steady go, but we've, of course, had some good jumps in their fed cattle market in recent weeks. So this week, we saw the South trade steady at 191. In the North, that Nebraska area, 195 is steady on the live side, and 305 delivered dressed. It was steady on the dress side. So that was, kind of solid news there. Especially given especially later this week, some of the weakness that we saw in the futures markets. The cutout was all over the place. Normally if we were just looking at the calendar, this would be kind of post the strength that we saw through November and earlier this month, and that we would just kind of write it off that this is when it starts to weaken. But it wasn't quite ready to do that. Although it bounced around, it was down early in the week as we would have expected, and then it had a strong close here late. So at the end of the day, and most of the movement has been in that rib primal that is really, drives the train here at the holiday season. But it did close at 320.70. That's $9.50 higher than last week. So a bit of a big surprise, a strong surprise as we finish off the year on the cutout. Now, bringing the market back to home, the Alberta fat cattle market this week on a draft basis was $2 to $5 higher. 420 delivered was where the bulk of the cattle traded on the dress side. There was a handful of live FOB trade heading south at 262. So again, strong close there. Certainly Canfax average will be up again this week. It was 254 last week. It'll be up again this week. So we close this year, on a nice increase in Alberta on these fed cattle prices. And again, we'll talk some more, I think, about the dollar on this interview today, but weak Canadian dollar continues to support these cattle prices across the board.
Well, let's take it there. We're 69.5 at the time of doing this discussion. There's, I've heard different people say that we could get down to as low as that 67 or 66.5. Ouch. Well, good for exporters, not so good if you're buying something in US dollars.
Yeah. And just for those keeping track, this is only the third time in the past 20 years where we've seen the dollar, close under that 70-cent level. So it's been a while. And, obviously the threat of tariffs is one thing driving some of what's going on, but also, the interest rate decisions that we've seen being made in the U.S. versus Canada. And that happened again this week that sent the dollar down another cent kind of middle of the week. So, but I think we talked about this, Sean, before, but this is really a story of U.S. dollar strength that's leading to the weakness in, a lot of the rest of the major currencies, including the Canadian dollar. So we'll see what happens as we go forward. But yeah, big moves in the dollar, and that's for exporters, that's been a good thing for sure.
Yeah, that's found money or extra money in the pocket for cattle feeders, or if you're exporting feeder cattle too, I guess. But that does add a little bit to the bottom line.
Yeah, well, and don't forget when you've got it impacting prices, it really does flow through the entire chain. So even though somebody might be selling calves in Central Florida this week, it all has an impact. So it's direct to the cattle feeder on his check, but then he turns around and spends it at the auction market.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't have an answer for is so where is like the precipice or the crossing point of where dollar too low, right? I guess it depends what your place is in the industry, but it's definitely something that is impacting a lot of Canadians and farm businesses right now on different ends of the equation, for sure. Hey, what about the bred heifer market?
Well, strong. I see Canfax last week reported their average. So this would be Western Canadian bred heifers through the auction markets. The average was just under $5,000 a head. So we've just never seen levels like that before, ever. So this is a very strong bred market as we finish off the year, and we talked about that 2 weeks ago, and it just kept on rolling right through the whole run. So that was good to see. I think you still hear candidly people talking about moisture conditions in 25 and what's going to come and how do things roll out and look as we move forward. So that's still a big piece in the back of this whole replacement market and move, whether we start to look at some serious retention or not. I don't think that's happened yet, but we'll see as we move through 25. Yeah,
it's interesting, the retention question, because we always talk about we need weather and we need some money to justify holding those heifers back. But the money's been so good here in like a fall like this. It's well, next year we'll retain, right? That's kind of been the mindset.
Yeah, and in fairness, I think, Sean, since the November election, I do think now we've all got one other piece of uncertainty in the back of our head in terms of, the threats of tariffs and whatnot. So we know how close our markets are intertwined to the U.S. And so that's a concern now that we had enough concerns coming into the next year that this is just adding one more worry to the pile, if you will.
For 2025, is the story supply still that overhangs and that remains to be one of the lead factors here going forward, especially from a price perspective?
And I think to add to that piece, I think we also have to throw the word demand in there, because really here in 24, supplies didn't drop off as much as we thought because of those record carcass weights and imports. We really had demand much stronger than we had ever anticipated. And so I think 24 certainly will be a story of phenomenal demand that helped drive the smaller supplies to these record prices. So I think there's two pieces to 24. As we go into 25, I think those two pieces are still dominating. There's always lots of questions around demand. But a strong U.S. economy, if that's, what this next administration brings, as they say, that tends to be, of course, good for beef demand, especially south of the border, and in Canada often rides along with that. So that, and then again, in 25, our supplies will be smaller. We are looking at fewer cattle, fewer cows were born in the past year and a half. And so that's going to be the storyline as we go forward. Smaller supplies and hopefully demand holding on just as strong as it did in 24.
And as you reflect on, I don't care, all of 24, the back half of 24 in your career, do you remember like this?
No. I mean, we've been talking about record prices since, the summertime, basically. Yeah. And so this is, and just to be talking about it still here at Christmas and expecting, I guess I'll stick this out there, expecting that these record levels continue, maybe not to jump by leaps and bounds in 25, but we're going to hold some awfully good prices as we go through 25 as well, based on those two things, the supply and demand story. And, fingers crossed. I know we shouldn't cross fingers, but we just don't know what the threat of tariffs is going to bring and how that kind of adds to this storyline. But supply and demand, that's going to be a great story still for 25 and prices.
Yeah, I think when the calendar flips to 25 and there's meetings like, say, the cattle convention, the NCBA meeting. I know Lindsay Smith from our team is going to be down there. I believe, and you are too. So
yeah, I'll be down there. So yeah, we'll be there firsthand to see and hear and buy. Yeah, lots to chat about for sure.
Have yourself a great weekend and Merry Christmas.
Okay, thanks. Merry Christmas to you and everyone listening.